Hello, welcome back. Tonight I will speak about Galactica. This is a recording, part of a playlist, and Galactica includes 11 different grimoires. It is a digital product that I am selling. They're all my books that I have written, and one can find each one in paper as well. And in the other recordings I spoke about all different 11 grimoires. Separately, I try to give an introduction on the thematic of each grimoire, of each character, and for some I already have some playlists, for some I still have to do. So well, each one has a different playlist, or I want to create where I speak more about the book or about the character as well. So first and all, well, Galactica has 11 different grimoires, and grimoire has, as I said, a very special genre, and it is a interesting, to say, type of book, because it does carry things that, to say, are not necessarily well, they are not subjects that are necessarily easy to understand. No. It is more like a special type of book, or certain speciality, focused on certain thematics. So to say, well, the thematic is of course open, so well, it can be many different things, but the form of the grimoire, I say, one has to follow. There's a certain poetic or lyrical form, or a certain knowledge that a book has to present to be able to be called a grimoire. So we say it is not a novel, no, it is not prosa, it is not poetry, it is a grimoire. It has a hymn, it is written in verse, it has a lyrical composition, and it speaks about a special type of knowledge. And what I mean special, I mean a knowledge that it is not so obvious, or it's not so clear, or it is something more hidden, or it is a thematic that is new, or something, It does have, it has to have a character which is special, or it has to have something that is very unique, I think. And there are not many grimoires, so it is very special type of genre. The element of the hymn, of course, is very important. That's why I chose it. So, well, it's not necessarily that a grimoire is written in hymn, but my grimoires are written in hymn form. So, well, it is a lyrical composition. And tonight I will speak about the elements of, to say, well, all the different grimoires. So, well, there are of course similarities or different things between the grimoires, and they all have a different thematic. They all speak about different things, so of course they are very different. At the same time, one can speak about symbols or elements that somehow are similar. Sometimes it came through in other recordings. So, well, if I speak about this, maybe I think about the other character of this grimoire, and there is some similarity between. And King Paimon being my first grimoire, is the one I have, to say, focused most of my work. So, well, it was my first grimoire, and that one took me much more long to write as well, because it is a very large grimoire. But so, well, it's not necessarily the number of the pages, as I've said. It does not say, well, if it's this page, it's a grimoire. If not, it does. It has nothing to do with the grimoire, how many pages the grimoire has, no? At the same time, the grimoires are mostly large type of books, so 400, 500, 600, 700 pages. But my grimoires, some my grimoires have this, some have around 200 pages, and some are mostly 300, 400. So it's like a medium-sized book, like a larger. But the Grimoire of King Paimon has over 700 pages, so it is my largest manuscript as well. So it is a larger thematic. That's why the books are larger, because the thematic is very large as well. So, well, it is not a simple novel. No, so, well, simple. It is not a simple novel, meaning that a novel has 3 different parts. No, so, well, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the story, and so on. Of course, it is the same work. You work the same on the book, but the grimoire is a larger thematic. It speaks about things that are not necessarily known, or things that hidden, or things that have some type of element of magic, or some type of element of something very high symbolistic, or something very high qualitative actually as well. So one say, well, one can write a grimoire on a specific character, but the character has to be very interesting. It has to have some type of importance as well. One to be able to write a grimoire. So of course the character is the main focus always, and it is the most important part, no? And I think the grimoire does offer, of course, characters. It was the right decision for me, and of course, I could not have written differently. I'm just explaining for others, maybe are interested in writing or the elements of writing. Well, so all these aspects doesn't have nothing to do with the character or the book itself. It's just the form or the stylistic elements that I have chosen to create it, because it had to be like that. It was like a secure choice, like that's why all the grimoires I kept the same style, no? And the meditative process that I was talking a lot, that I always do in creating my books, especially the grimoires, it is a longer period as well. It takes me longer as well to be able to create it, and to be able to put it in a form that does carry the story as well. And I think the lyrical part, it gives that freedom of the metaphor, that stylistic quality of the poetic form, which you say, well, without that it will be just simple words. So one has to have that poetic or stylistic elements of that verse, no? So, well, the hymn is created from verses, and it has that lyrical and poetic qualities, and it does carry the story in a certain rhythm, in a certain way, with certain metaphors, with certain tempo, with a certain stanza, no? They call it in Spanish, or the lyrical elements of the letters of the words, of course, no? And so, well, how many vocals, how many consonants, which words, which colors, which, there's a lot of stylistical work that goes in the creation of a grimoire in hymn form. In the same time, it is that part that gives that type of freedom, or it gives that type of special rhythms. And I think it's necessary, because the books can be larger, and it's very nice to be able to carry that story, And the tempo sometimes is fast, sometimes is slower. So the story changes in each grimoire. Of course, there is a story in each grimoire, and it does change. It does sometimes think more faster, sometimes slower, sometimes, of course, different scenes. So it is the element of the story. It is that element of the character with the story. And I think all this, of course, creates something beautiful, because they say, well, the grimoire does not only carry the part of knowledge. It is not just that my books are not manuals. My books are literally works. It is my own creation. It is my literal work, or my poetic and stylistic abilities and qualities and work as well. So of course it does say, well, from the idea to the element of the creation of the book, to the element of course, editing, correcting, publishing, and those are the steps that one has to take. And then, of course, the elements of the story. I said the story is that what makes the book. It's even more important than the character. So the character can be interesting, but is there a story? The story is that one who is even more important than the character or characters. And I have written other books, so there are different type of stories that need a different type of text. So you can say, well, this I have to write in this form, or this I have to write in this form, no? So we say, well, for the collection of Galactica, it's great that they're all written the same way, because it's the same style, no? So it's the same origin, inspiration point for me as well, and the same aspect of working on the text. So it is well, they do carry, of course, a lot of similarities from this point of view. And the element of the characters as well. So well, they are, of course, as I said, many differences. So say, of course, each character has a different story. Each character carries different meanings or different symbols or different, or it's just, of course, the story is totally different. And of course, one can get even more in detail now. So well, there are, as I've said, similarities between the different grimoires, and I can talk tonight about some of those, or things that, you know, are different as well. So from the similarities, some are very unique, of course, in the meaning that maybe I don't find so many similarities with the others. But sorry, the book of King Paimon, I think, we have the, the elements of the sand, and the element of the very strong sun, you know, and that element of the desert, or the, in German, Wüste, no, the element of that very strong sun or very strong desert. So the element of the cold, or the cold of the night. That's very much what we, the thematic of King Paimon as well. That appears in the book. And then we have maybe other grimoire, like the Grimoire of Barbatos too, you know. So well, they are the element of that landscape that seems very far away, or seems very untouched, you know. It is that element of, at the same time, more cold type of environments. And so well, that has something to do with, well, the King Paimon is magician of the west, so it's the element of the west, and Barbatos is magician of the north, so represents the element of the cold. So well, the west is the element of the sun, is the element of from where the sun, no, rises, the element of that west. So well, this is a similarity in the meaning, like a connection between the grimoires. Of course, there are many similarities as well. And then we have the Grimoire of Asmodeus. We say, well, Asmodeus represents those elements of the colors, of that kaleidoscope, or those elements that change, or there's interplay between many different forms or many different qualities of the colors combined. No, there's that element of that very something very detailed, something very well done, something very, I say, almost like handmade, you know. And plus element of the birds, or element of the colors. It is, the Asmodeus is very unique in the appearance. It has a very kind of appearance I cannot necessarily say. They all look very different, especially like the moment, you know, the elements that they carry. It is a very big difference. And we have the colors. For Asmodeus, we have the purple, we have the blue, no? In other grimoires, we have like Barbatos, or we have more the color green. Vapula, we have more the color red or black, you know. It is, I say, all my books all have a color palette. And so well, they all carry the element of the black, when I said in many different aspects. I say it comes very much into grimoires. I say one sees different elements of that black, of that differences between. I say, well, if they all carry the color black, it's very different. There are different metaphors, there are different meanings. It is represented in a different way. Then in many we have the element of the clouds, of the element of, as I said, of the open space, where sometimes it's day, sometimes it's night. It's that element too of that interplay or interchange, no? And then we have the element of that orange or red, it's the element of the fire as well, of course, that is connected to King Paimon, the element of the west, which represents the element of the sun. Of course, sun represents the fire, represents all those elements, no? And sometimes I have the element of the cold, like the frozen landscape, the ice, the cold wind or the cold rain. Others is more like the soft breeze or the soft blue sky, or very sun, very dry. That we spoken in different recordings. In each one we have different elements of this as well. Of course, similarities. Sometimes we have the black cloud. Sometimes we have the rain, or sometimes we have very frozen landscape, very open. The element of the sun connected with the element of the cold, the element of the frozen landscape with the element of the sun. Of course, the element of the tree appears. They're all a little different. It's a different tree, of course, no? So say, even if we speak about the same thing, the same symbol, it is, as I said, all these elements very different in each case. So, we have the element of the water. Sometimes it's frozen water, sometimes it's liquid water, sometimes it's different, no? Sometimes we have, to say, well, hard elements, sometimes we have more dusty elements, sometimes we have a faster tempo, sometimes, no? They are very different in these details. And I think of course there are some similarities, and so there are some aspects that are the same. At the same time, it's very much to focus on the element of uniqueness, or the element of something different, or something, so well, the element of magic, so well, when the cold snow is melted by the sunlight, one cannot really say how strong or how fast that part of the snow melts. It's an element of something hard to calculate, or something hard to prove mathematically, or something like that. But at the same time, it is an element of magic. Something magical happens, no? The same when you have icicle and then the sun comes and then it drips out all that icicle. It's hard to say, well, it may take this or take how many hours. It depends on the many elements. The element of the nature. It is imprevisible. So while one can walk outside, it's dry, and suddenly big storm, big rain. Those changes, no, that came to it very much into the Grimoire of Lilith. Those changes into nature, or from day to night, or from cold to warm, or from snow to water, from water to snow or to ice. Those elements appear very much into landscapes as well, that of course are presented in the books. Or, as I say, we have very much the element of the sand, very dry environments. Or if we have the element of the birds are always different, no? So, well, in the book of or in the Grimoire of this, we have this bird. In the other one, we have this bird. The other one, this bird is represented. And to say, well, these are all similarities I can, so to say, pinpoint or point out from my grimoires, but as I've said, when one reads, one sees that my grimoires are actually very different. But of course, they do carry, as I've said, the same seed. They do carry the same origin part. It is something that I wanted them to have. So, well, if it's a collection, it's like 10 brothers or 11, they do carry, of course, a lot of similarities between them as well. At the same time, as I've said, if there is a scale, the scale goes more on the side of the part that is unique. So I think it goes higher, no? So it moves, or lower, doesn't matter. But it is more the part, so well, as I say, maybe 10 similarity and the rest, very unique, or maybe 15 similarities between them, but still very different as well. Other aspects to say, well, the grimoires, of course, carry their own stories. So, well, it is maybe stories from the past, and there can be, of course, similarities or correlation between stories as well. So, well, this story maybe is like this old, or maybe this story is in this time, or maybe this story, and the different symbols. And so, well, it was not something that I have created necessarily. So, well, I stayed before writing with the pen and I penciled out all the differences and all the, no, I didn't do, now finding them out, almost to say, me thinking about my grimoires. So each grimoire that I've written has been a different experience in some way or another. Some took me longer, sometimes shorter, and I only focused on the grimoire, as I always do. So, well, the focus is the grimoire, the story, the characters, well, that is well written and it is correct. So, to say that part is the most important as a writer. So, well, the story can be great, but it has to be written accordingly. It has to be presented in a certain way for it to be good, I guess. But that part can be always improved, or it can be, you know, created to a level that the book is like, you know, it's almost like written in that aspect of the story that can be told. And I think many grimoires share the color blue or the color green. That is, there is some similarities between the colors, and there's always the element of the white appears in all of them very predominantly, very presently, so to say. There are some elements, as I've said, that repeat themselves in many different ways or in the same way. That gives that almost like a certain tempo, a certain grounding to the story as well. And the presentation of the character or the presentation of the story was the most important aspect for me. So, well, I can use the best things or the best words, but if it does not represent that character, it is a lie, it is false, or it is not what I'm supposed to write. So there is that part of that knowledge that, of course, I acquire or educate myself before. It is to say, well, until I start to write it, the book is already written in my head. It is already there. I just have to do the work. But the writing process for me is the not writing process. One, I have the idea in my head, that part that is the main part. Then comes more the methodical part, like the writing, the correcting. But the most important part is the number, no? The first steps until I start to write. So these two aspects are very different for me. So, well, I do enjoy both, but the first aspect is the aspect of me creating the right story, and then, of course, the element of maintaining the story through the storyline, through the way that, through a certain form as well. So, well, the method or the way, you know. There is a method, there is a way to, I do it. So, I say, well, maybe the first part is more free, it's more artistic part. The second part is more strict, it's the part of the editing, correcting and writing text. It is more the mechanical part. And it's quite interesting now how the balance. The first part is for me a little bit more stressful, more difficult, but the second part is more relaxing. So the first part, why I say it's more stressful, because, well, one always, you know, tries to understand the character or try to present a character in a good light. At the same time, it is part of the story, you know, so, well, it does have to carry truth. So, I will continue another time. Of course, there are many different aspects that I will still continue to talk about Galactica. I think it's a great collection. I think all the grimoires are very special, and I do invite you, of course, to read from my grimoires if you want. There's a link in the description box with my books and with the link to the playlist. As well, I will continue to record for Galactica. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, bye.